What's happening, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Unparalleled Sports Talk with yours, Kwame Fisher Jones. As always, I am him, and I'm joined by my man, I keep wanting to say beat writer, General Assignment Reporter for NJ.com, Chris Franklin. What's good, Chris?
Nothing much, man. Lately, it feels like a beat writer because I've been covering a lot of the Eagles lately, and so yeah, it's fun.
That's good. That's good. That's what you like to do, man. That's what you like to do. We were talking basketball before we got started, but we're going to get right back to football. So, the Detroit Lions had a huge win against the Minnesota Vikings, a divisional foe, 2-point win. And I'm still not there with them. But my question for you is my astute football mind. Are the Lions, how good are the Lions? Are they for real? Are they, a playoff team? Are they the best team in the NFL, best team in the NFC? How good are the Lions?
I look at them right now as the best team in the NFC, and
Okay.
you projected it right now. I don't know how you can consistently stop this offense because I think it's going to come down to who has home field in this conference. It really is. I mean, look at it. I look at Minnesota. Their defense really good. I'm still waiting for the pumpkin. I still wait for Sam Darnold to really show himself. Like he kind of did against the
A
Lions in
lot of
terms
people are. A lot of people
of
are.
a lot of people, and they found, I think they got the book on him for this time. It is the current stop. But I look at the lines. I look at that running game. I look at Montgomery and Gibbs. I would have said Jameson Williams. The only thing it's going to do is like if they get injuries or they have stupid stuff like Jameson Williams getting suspended again when you need it like that. So I look at that and I see the only question I have about the lines is their secondary and
Okay.
the pass rush, consistent pass rush now that Aiden Hutchinson's going. I just don't see how you stop that Lions offense. I look at it around the defense. The only defense that I think is equipped well enough right now to stop the Lions, we saw them already. That's Brian Flores and the Vikings. So, but they still hold the whole thing. How about you?
I'm looking at a Lions team that has beaten the Los Angeles Rams, the Arizona Cardinals, the Seattle Seahawks, and the Dallas Cowboys and the Minnesota Vikings. I say they're a good playoff team. They're I don't see the championship. Like, I'll give you an example. We watched the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes literally run through the San Francisco 49ers. Like, he literally ran through the San Francisco 49ers. Championship swagger. Maybe a step below that. I don't want to say the Pittsburgh Steelers have championship swagger, but we saw them make a quarterback change. And about the second quarter on, they look like a pretty damn good football team. The Minnesota Vikings have struggled throughout. They played a horrible game against the Lions and still managed to lose within two. And some might say they played well enough to win that game. I don't think, and then let me throw the Baltimore Ravens in there, who are a championship contender. Baltimore hasn't looked consistently good, and they're still steamrolling their opponents.
You're dangerous.
Yeah, I think the Lions are a great story. If you're a Detroit Lions football fan, I believe that for you, this is an exciting time. But I just don't see a football team that I believe is the best team in the NFC. So you say, well, then who is? I'm going to put the Vikings on that list. Outside of that, I really don't have, I'm not hell bent on it, but I would love to see the Eagles jump up and take it. I don't believe in the Commanders, even though they've got a better record than I think they could show. You would want to say it was the Bucks, but after the shellacking that they took at the hands of the Ravens, it's kind of like you can make an argument for the Lions by default. But again, I'm not sold on the Lions. I'd take the coupon. If the coupon's a buy one, get one free, then I'd buy it. But I need some incentive. I need a little bit more. And I look at their schedule coming up. They've got the Titans. There should be much, but they got at Green Bay, at Houston. And then you go down a little further down, they've got a game against Buffalo, and they got a game at San Francisco. So I think by the time we get to San Francisco, we'll get a better gauge of where they are as a football team. I don't think they beat the Packers and the Texans. Both of those games, they maybe split them. I wouldn't be surprised they lose both of those games on the road. And at that point, people are singing a different tune. And then another thing, and I'm going to throw this back to you. Do you trust Jared Goff?
In this system, I do. I think it's one of those things. It's a friendly system. Friendly system.
Interesting.
It's where you look at the stuff. You look at the weapons. They're not asking him throw it 50 yards deep downfield and try to push it vertically with as much speed as they have with Amon St. Brown and with Gibbs and with I keep wanting to say Cunningham, but with Montgomery, All he has to do, put the ball in the accurate spot, 10, 15 yards, and let them run after the cat, get those yards.
Can he do that though consistently?
I think
Can he
so.
do that?
I think he's at the point now where I think he's proven it. I look at the end of last year, save for the NFC Championship game where he couldn't lead that drive, and lead them to the Super Bowl. Save for
Because he got
that,
hit. He got hit a
yeah.
lot in that NFC Championship game.
It
And
ran.
to quote the great philosopher Iron Mike, everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the mouth. That's my issue with Jared Goff, man. When he gets punched, see, and it's I always find a way to talk about the Eagles, so I'll talk about it. That's what we know about. That's what we know about Jalen. Jalen gets hurt. Jalen hurts. Jalen gets hit, and you're not going to see him fold. You're not going to see him get flustered. He's going to make the same mistakes. Patrick Mahomes, I'm sitting in the lobby watching the game with some of my coworkers, and I'm just like, Patrick Mahomes is that dude. Like, there's some guys that are just so good. Not just there's some guys that are really good. There's some guys that are just we had that, and you know, and I don't see that with Jared Goff, man. I feel like you hit him, you punch him in the mouth a couple times, you see a different quarterback, and you're saying all he's got to do is get the ball out. All he's got to do is play smart. But it's easy to say that until his brains get, and now that smartness goes someplace. So I don't believe in Jared Goff. Floor is yours.
I see. There's only I think there's only about like 5 quarterbacks that you can really point to that are just elite enough that can bypass getting hit and keep ticking, and that's a rare commodity. So you just need somebody who can run. He's I can't believe I want to say it this way. Jared
Uh-oh.
Goff is an elite
Uh-oh.
game
Here we
manager.
go.
He's an elite game manager.
What
Now
does
I don't
that
say he's a
mean?
quarterback.
It's right up there
Someone
with he left the field with the lead. What does that mean exactly?
He's an elite game manager. The fact, like, okay, I'll make sure I won't turn the ball over too much. I'll make sure I can dump it off to this guy, and I'll try to just watch back from here and watch my yardage rack up when it's really my weapon's really getting it for me instead of me pushing it dart air yard wise. That's why I look at that one too. He's aided by a good running game too, which the
Mm.
balance, which the more teams around the league would do it. Well, if you see the more balance, you can and get that happening. You see the fruits of their labor when they do that. So he's not he's not somebody. If I say right now, if there's an expansion draft right now, everybody's available to be taken. He's not even taken in the first. I think quarterback wise, I think he's not even taken in the first 2 rounds, or the first round, what have you. So I don't think he's not one of those elite guys, but he's elite at he. I can't believe I'm about to say this. He's Jake Delhomme when he was really good.
Mm.
Reminds
I
me of
remember,
that.
yeah.
He
Jake
was really
Delhomme, when he had about a 20 to 25 game hot streak, almost 2.5 seasons. Yeah, almost 2 seasons where he was, a guy and he got his money and Delhomme was gone. He was a
Yep.
flash in the pan. I see what you're saying. I think Golf is a little better than that, but I'm not too so maybe no, I wouldn't say he's that good. I was gonna say Trent, I forget his name. He played for Kansas City, and then he played a
Frank
little bit
Green.
for the Rams. Trent Green, yeah, but maybe Gus Frerotte. Maybe Gus Frerotte. I could see
I
that
want to bang my head into the goalpost and all my neck.
exactly.
Why am I not the same anymore? Same time that Washington drafted 2 quarterbacks, and look what happened. Each or him. I'm sorry, the
Yeah,
command. I had to think about their quarterback history. They're just dumb and some of those things.
yeah. And now you got Jaden Daniels. It says it's a rib injury, but it looked lower extremities. But anyway, speaking of quarterback play, I want to transition here. If I tell you Jalen Hurts has 9 touchdowns and 7 interceptions, what would you say?
I'd say he's middle of the pack, but there's also a lot more quarterbacks like Patrick Mahomes. It's funny you say that because I'm doing a story for my story for tomorrow. So you look at Patrick Mahomes. Uh, now I'm drawing a blank on it. Jordan Davis. Oh, sorry, not Jordan Love.
Jordan Love, yeah, I got you.
And then there's like a few other guys as well too that are up there. Hurts only has 4 interceptions, but
Yeah, I know.
you
No, 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 no. Don't give it away. I'm making a point. I'm
oh my
making
bad,
a
my bad.
point.
Sorry, my bad.
No, you're fine. I'm making a point. So if I were to tell you that Josh Allen has 9 touchdowns and 7 interceptions, what would you say?
What,
What would you say about his play? What would you say about his play?
about his play normally, if that was anybody else, I'm like, well, he doesn't have the supporting cast like he used. Well, I would say he's struggling and he's trying to force stuff and play hero ball on top of that. A
Exactly.
lot of natural guys. Well, you look at the way that he doesn't have supporting cast and digs. He'll
Mhm.
find out he's a gunslinger. He'll make mistakes and they'll through that one. Like I'm
But you would
tired.
say he was struggling, and you would
Yeah.
definitely hold his feet to the fire. One last one, or two more. Lamar Jackson, C.J. Stroud. If I told you they had 9 interceptions or 9 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, and their team was below 500 at 3-4, would you say that these are struggling quarterbacks? And regardless of anything else, they could probably the reason why their team is struggling.
Yep, they're giving turn the ball over way too much, putting their defenses in perilous positions, not putting points on the board, and you're looking at the fact that you're really just hurting your team overall. So yeah.
So why the hell has Brock Purdy been skating like Elsa from Frozen? Why has he been getting this? He's skating like he's skating by criticism like no other quarterback I've ever seen. They're 3-4. He's got 9 touchdowns to 7 interceptions. Debo's hurt. He's on his last legs. I get it. Ayuk missed training camp. I get it. But Kyle Shanahan's supposed to be the next Bill Walsh. And, McCaffrey's hurt. I get it. But the other running back whose name escapes me has been playing lights out. If you watch the 49ers play, you're seeing one of the top running backs in the year this league behind the line of scrimmage. Kittle's supposed to be a top 49ers. Why has Brock Purdy been able to escape? Then let's throw Kyle Shanahan in that mix, because if you throw any other quarterback, any other coach, whether it be Harbaugh, Sirianni, any of those guys at 3-4, McDermott, we're questioning how much longer they're going to be on the hot seat before they're fired. But with Kyle Shanahan, it's okay. It's no big deal. Why is that?
I hate to use an older comparison to this, but it's almost like the Candy effect, the Camelot effect. Kyle Shanahan
Mm-hmm.
comes from the family, the Shanahan slash Kubiak tree. So that way, everybody still remembers Mike Shanahan. And, oh, well, Kyle's a young guy. He really knows he
Yeah,
learned that. I think it's a lot of that going on. And I think with Purdy, it's the fairy tale of, well, he was Mr. Irrelevant and he led
that's
his
what
team
it is.
too. And they don't want to trash the kid. But the problem is, you can't praise him so much. I'm gonna say something I shouldn't say. I apologize. You can't praise him to the point where you're like, hey, he's just great. He's the next coming of Joe Montana out there, and you can't hold him accountable at the same time. I think when I look at some of my colleagues in the media, I think there's an issue with that. There's an issue with a lot of stuff when you see these numbers. Everybody just wants to go with their narrative or what they think their first impressions of this guy instead of actually living in the moment, putting it in a vacuum and seeing where he's at. Brock Purdy's not a good quarterback right now. And the team really and Shanahan's not being a really good play caller right now. And I
Mm,
think first see until they look introvertly, they can have all the locker room summits they want. They can have everything else in front of them until Shanahan looks himself in the mirror and says, I might need an outside voice to help me out on this one, which he should have had with the game management. That's a whole nother. I digress. And I actually put it more on Shanahan and Purdy because Purdy still looked like I'm just trying to do what I can. Put me in a better position. That's what I am. And until that happens, the Super Bowl curse. Which if anybody has a chance
yep,
after you watch this
yep.
episode, Gridiron Heights did a great. The Gridiron Heights Bleacher Report did a great thing making fun of Shanahan and Purdy about Halloween and all that stuff and Haunted doing the ring. It's perfect. It sums up the whole entire thing perfectly in what we're talking about. But Shanahan needs to change and do it fast, or the season's lost.
Well, I think the season's lost, and I've never been a big 49ers guy. When I look at San Francisco and I watch Brock Purdy play, it makes me laugh. And you mentioned why it makes me laugh. You said Mr. Irrelevant. When your expectations are lower than the person's talent, and they exceed the low expectations you have because they're a little talented or a little more talented than you thought, you elevate them, if that makes sense. So it's kind of like a 2 + 1 = 99. And let me give you a better analogy. So most people would say pretty women don't have to do much to keep a man, right? Conversely, a universally accepted unattractive woman has to do a lot of things. So more than likely, your unattractive women are going to be able to cook. They're going to be able to hold house. They're going to be able to hold a decent conversation. So that's going to impress you. A pretty woman, if she can make spaghetti in a whim, you're like, yo, baby can cook. She's wifey material. And all she did was boil some noodles and open a jar. And she probably didn't even open the jar. She probably had you do it. So it's like when your talent is here and the expectations are below that, if you do just a little bit, that little bit more, that little bit of talent you have is far overvalued. And that's what Brock Purdy is because he was Mr. Irrelevant, because he was a guy that was not highly thought of. People have elevated him to that 99. Like I said, the 2 plus 1 has equaled 99. And the numbers aren't adding. The numbering ain't numbering. And when you look at 9 touchdowns and 7 interceptions, and then you start giving all the litany of reasons to excuse his failures, it all comes down to one thing. Money just ain't that good. Kyle Shanahan. Well, he had Matt Schaub in Houston, and he Kyle Shanahan has ruined a lot of talented quarterbacks. And I said it before. Johnny Manziel was not bad until he got under Kyle Shanahan. Donovan McNabb was not a bad RG3. These guys were not bad quarterbacks. So they got a hold of that Shanahan system. And then before you know it, they're all gone. So when I look at Brock Purdy, the combination of Purdy, the combination of Shanahan, I think it's run its course. I'm excited because I think this year will tell us a lot about them because the Super Bowl curse is merely just you getting other teams' best shots. That's what it is. You play longer than most teams, and now you're getting all the teams' best shots. So the talent and execution has to supersede your talent or surpass your talent. How do you see this season ending up for the 49ers?
Well, first off, I gotta say, you sound like I didn't know this was a life advice because you sounded like my former dating past talking about. That. I was like, yeah, this sound like that one. But
It's the truth, bro. I'm
it's
telling you,
true.
before I met my wife in college and I was at other schools and I was dating, it used to drive me crazy when women could say they would cook and all they would do is make spaghetti. That's not cooking. That's boiling water. That's not cooking.
Yeah.
And the unattractive women will blacken some salmon for you. They'll make some nice brown vegetable. So yeah, go ahead though. Go ahead.
Be happy for the rest of your life. Never make a prayer.
Exactly.
Anyway, but when I look at the way that the season's going to end when it comes to the 49ers, I look at it something being of, I think they go in the playoffs still. I think they sneak in.
Really? Well, yeah, because the division is awful. The division is bad.
Oh, God, like this conference is top. This conference is real top heavy. So don't make the playoffs.
Yeah.
It's a 6 or 7 team. And even if they depending on the matchup, they can go face someone whoever comes out the South. And even then, I'm still thinking like, all right, they can win a game maybe if they match up against like say the Saints or the Falcons or what have you. But it ain't going far. They're not going back to they're not going back to the Super Bowl. They're not even going back to the NFC Championship game. It's just bad. They need to just let the rooms regroup. And if they're even like a game and a half or 2 games out of the wild card spot, just shut everything down and just recoup everything.
I'm going to go out on a limb. I take back my statement.
Go
Cracking my
ahead.
neck as I say that. I take back my statement. I don't think they make the playoffs. This is their next 5 games. They got Dallas, which normally is a layup for them. But here's the problem, Chris. It's right before a bye week. So you may have guys sit to get 2 weeks break. You may have guys already 1, 2, 3 Cancooning. You know what I mean? It's a bye week late going into November. So you got other distractions built in. But when they come out of the bye week, they're at Tampa. Now, I've told you before about the Florida curse. My dude, it is like 90 degrees in Florida with an 80 humidity. You're coming into Florida. I like the Bucks in that game. Then you've got a divisional opponent at home in Seattle. They could probably win that game. But then you're in Green Bay in the end of November. And
Cold,
then you've got at Buffalo in
cold.
December. I mean, exactly. Exactly. You've got Green Bay November 24th, Buffalo December 1st on the road. And then you come home to a Chicago Bears team. Bro, I don't think they make the playoffs. I think in that stretch they go one, they beat Dallas. Even with everything I said, I think it's a good chance they beat Dallas. I think they find one more win. So that's 1-1, 1-2, to say 2-3, 2-4, 2-5 in that 7 game stretch.
I don't know. See,
7 game stretch.
I think Chicago comes back. I think Chicago. I think they can beat Chicago. I think they could.
That's one.
I think they beat Chicago. I think they beat the Cowboys. The Cowboys. I
That's
think
two.
dumpster fire. I think they beat Seattle. I really do on that one. Three. The Green Bay game, no. The Buffalo game, no. I don't see that. The Tampa Bay, it depends on if Evans is back. I know they said I saw some things saying he's gonna be back after the bye or what have you. I just don't see that off. Baker looks completely different without Mike Evans and Godwin.
He's
And
like
even
Baker. He looks like the Baker quarterback faker I've known to come and love. But I'm gonna give him his propers. I'm gonna give him his propers.
I think they can win that game. I even with Florida, I think the offense, the Buccaneers offense is just there. It's a tight game because I respect the Buccaneers defense. I know even though they laid an egg against Lamar Jackson, but he's Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
I think they can keep Brock Purdy in line. But something about that game, I just feel like the San Fran. They're going to be like 9-8, 9-8, 10-7, somewhere around 9-8, probably most likely to sneak in.
Let's just say they go 3-4 in that stretch, which is what you're saying because you're on the wing, you're on the ropes about another one. 3-4 puts them at 6-8. 3-4 puts them at 6-8. Seattle can and we're only going to get one team from the NFC West. Seattle more than likely wins that division. I'll put it to you this way: Tampa and Seattle will be their season. If they can go 2-0 in those stretches, then there's a good chance they beat the Bears. And now you're looking at, and I do think they beat the Cowboys. So now you're looking at in that stretch 4-3. So now you're 7-7 with Seattle on the docks to have to win it out. And Geno Smith. So we'll see. But I definitely have some serious questions about that. Now, I want to hop to this. Speaking of teams with questions, the Atlanta Falcons sit at 4-3. I didn't believe Atlanta would be a 9-win football team. They won some games that I'm surprised they won, specifically beating Philly. That was a game I didn't think they would win, and beating Tampa Bay. But they've lost to the Seahawks. They got slaughtered by the Seahawks. Now they've got the Bucks coming up this weekend in Tampa Bay. Then they've got Dallas. Then they've got New Orleans and Denver, which sound like cakewalks. But it's Denver in November on the road, and Denver's played oddly well at points this year. For some reason, they played oddly well at some points in time this year. So should the Falcons be concerned?
I don't think so because when I look at them, and I think the main thing, especially, you had so many new pieces on that defense, and it take time to gel to get used to that chemistry of hey, you're going to be here, you got this zone, you do this stuff. That takes some time, and this is too much talent on that defense with Judon, with Simmons. I just look at Bates. I just look at them and I'm like, they can be a 9-win team. It's Kirk Cousins, which I ain't got enough for to have them to go like deep late in the season to be able to say, okay, a playoff win, I need that. But I think it's almost Kirk Cousins proof that they can actually win some of those late games. I think
Interesting.
Yeah, it's rough, but am I confident about that? No, I can't say, Chris, you can live if they make the playoffs. I ain't putting that bet on mine because I'll probably be like, oh, yeah. But get my affairs in order. But I look at that, I still see a lot. I think there's still that they can ride their defense and just have Kirk Cousins play well enough to get those wins. Take care of your division, split your road games. Denver, good luck because I remember walking around that stadium trying to get from one point to the stadium, which is higher up, and like where the press box all the way down to where the press box is, and I'm out of wind. I'm like, no, it's not just because I eat too many cheeseburgers; it's more because I have thin air. So that's a whole other thing to do. So it'll be tough, but I think they can do it.
So I don't know. I want to stay 10 toes down on what I said. Borrow Chris Broussard's line. I want to stay 10 toes down on what I said. But when I look at their schedule coming up, and you consider because where we are at this point in the season, teams are what they are, and the Falcons are a slightly better than 500 football team. So if you were to say they beat Tampa Bay, I can't definitively say they won't. If you were to say, they beat Dallas in Dallas, I can't definitively say they won't. Same thing with New Orleans. New Orleans, while it's their rival game, it's still a divisional game that can go either way. Then you've got Denver in Denver. I definitely think they lose that game, and I definitely think they lose the game against Minnesota. But those are two losses. Those are two losses that I feel confident about. That puts them at 5 losses. And at week 11, 5 losses still means you're 6-5. 6-5, 5-5. So you're still right there in the mix with the Chargers, Raiders, and Giants and Panthers on the schedule. So they could, yeah, exactly, exactly. So I do think they're in trouble though in making the playoffs because I believe the South is only going to have one team. I think yeah, exactly. I think the North is going to wipe the slate. They might take all the wild card teams. You know what I mean? And I
Yeah.
think the East, Philly and the Commanders are going to come down the pipeline. And I like my Birds, but I wouldn't be surprised if both of those teams make it the playoffs. Now Atlanta holds the tiebreaker if there's a tie. But if it comes to Philly one game ahead, you see what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
I think they're in trouble of missing the playoffs and they don't win that division, and that division is going to be tough. But the Saints have fell off, so it's really just a two-horse race. And the Bucks looked awful on Monday. Baker's seems like it's turning midnight for him. It seems like he's turning back into a pumpkin, which is definitely something that I won't say I would celebrate, but I would celebrate. So speaking of celebration, last week I picked the Jaguars to lose to the Patriots or the Patriots to cover. Either way, that didn't happen. I picked who did I pick? I picked the Texans over the I don't even remember. I know I finished the week 1 and 2. No, I picked Kansas City to wipe the slate with the 49ers, that one. And I picked the Steelers to I picked the Jets to beat the Steelers. So 1 and 2. I finished the
Nice.
week 1 and 2,
Not an
which is
offer.
about where I've been all year. Pretty abysmal. How did you end up with the week?
I know I got two. I forgot my other picks. I know I got two of them right. And I'm of all things, I know it's a running joke now. Of all weeks, I do not pick them in London where they
Here we go.
happen. They go
Here we
for it. The
go.
one time I don't pick them in
Here we go.
London, and they win it. So yeah, it's
Well, redeem yourself. We got 9 minutes left on the clock. Give me your three picks.
I ain't picking them this week. I ain't that
Yeah,
stupid.
no. Jacksonville's a walking time bomb at this point. No, I think they've already exploded, so I take that back.
I'm,
So
I'm,
who you
I'm
got this week?
We were just got off the talking finishing that one. I look at the line right now. I'm cheating and looking at the lines to see if there's any movement. The
Yeah.
fact that the Tampa Bay Bucket, I know you get the three from home, but it's 2.5 facing a division rival against the Falcons. I'm getting the Falcons on this one. I'm
Yeah.
taking
Yeah. Yeah. I would agree.
I
I
don't care
would
if it's
agree.
enough work. I'm taking them on that in terms of that. I just think is going there. The game that kind of that affected me in a way because now it's no longer 420 1 o'clock, it's 425 now. The Bears and the Commanders. Market, I mean,
Mm.
Commanders are favored one and a
Mm.
half points now. You mean to tell me Marcus Mariota is going to go ahead and lead this Commanders team and over the Bears
So is
defense?
Daniels completely out?
I think they said he's week to week. He's week to week with a rib. And when you usually hear week to week, that first week it kind of has me like,
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't have their schedule up in front of me, but if they've got a bye next week, that's pretty much going to wrap it up for them. It means they got a bye next week. Go ahead.
yeah, I'm taking the Bears. I can't believe I'm saying I'm taking the Bears on the road, but yeah, I'm taking the Bears on the road. With, yeah, 1.5. That's basically to me anything from like two below is a pick 'em, and I'm taking that's a
Mm.
pick 'em. I think the Bears win outright on that in that game as well. And then finally, I was going back and forth between the Eagles, Bengals, and I was going back and forth between Chargers, Saints. And the reason why I'm going back and forth Chargers, Saints is the Chargers are a 7.5 point favorite. They do not deserve to be a 7.5 point favorite no matter what. Even if you have Spencer Rattler, if you have what, and then shocker, here we go again. Justin Herbert has an injury. They don't know if it's a strained finger or whatever that he's got an
Mm.
injury. Like enough. 7.5. This is just a straight
Mm.
personal system play on this one. I'm getting a touchdown plus I get the hook. I just think the Chargers. I don't like the Chargers in the spot. Give me the Saints.
Really? Really? It's shocking. Shocking to me.
Oh,
Shocking to me.
I don't like the Chargers. Give me the Saints.
I know it's shocking that you don't like the Chargers. I've convinced you that Justin Herbert is not that guy. Me, man, I'm actually jumping on your Arizona bandwagon. You got Arizona at Miami. Miami's getting 3. And I love the Cardinals in that game. I absolutely love them in that game. But just for the sake of trying to be better than 1 and 2, I'm not going to pick Arizona to win, but I'm going to pick Arizona to cover. I think no way Miami beats them by more than 2 points, and it's going to be a late field goal. I don't even know who the hell Miami's starting quarterback is right now. I know Tua is whispers about Tua coming back, but if he comes back, how many hits is it going to take, before he gets hurt again? And I don't want to even make a joke about it because it's such a seriously sad situation. So, I definitely, but I love the Cardinals have been in most games. They've had their blowouts, but they haven't been by no stretch of the imagination. They've been a walkover this year, and Miami is not. While it's humid in Miami, Arizona, it's hot. So they're still rocking and rolling. So I love them. I also love Houston to cover against Indy. They're 6-point favorite. I believe it's in Indy. Houston, no, it's in Houston. That's why I'm going with them. Houston is a 6-point favorite. I love them to cover that. That's what are we looking at? Joe Flacco in Indiana at this point?
Yeah, because AR-15, that's a disappointment.
All splat, all steak. I mean, all sizzle, no. What is it? All steak, no sizzle. What is it?
That's a mistake.
Yeah, all sizzle, no steak. He's a lot of splashing, no swimming. I like that one better. He can't do the simple things, and that he'll have 5 completions for 500 yards. Like I'm a hard pass on him. And Houston has been a lot better than I thought they would be. This is a divisional game, so things could always go awry. But I definitely like Houston in this spot at this juncture of the year. They don't have anything coming up. They don't have any major, major catastrophic injuries that may shake the team. And just a side note, and it's going to sound crazy, but Deshaun Watson tearing his Achilles after everything that organization went through with him, and CJ Stroud being, one of the top young quarterbacks. That's just going to put a vibe through that organization. It's going to make a lot of guys say we made the right call there. Just saying. I'm just saying. You know what I mean? Nobody was praying for his downfall, but when your ex was having credit issues, you you kind of chuckle as you pass by him on the bus. You know what I mean? You kind of chuckle when you're coming out of Whole Foods and they're in Walmart. It's not that you're wishing bad things on them, but the fact that they're not doing too hot. No diss to Walmart shoppers. I was at Walmart earlier today, but you get the gist of what I'm saying. And then finally, Cincinnati Bengals getting 2 points against the Birds after the feel good win that Philly had in New York. No way. Philly wins that game. Philly wins that game. Philly wins that game. And they're going to have problems covering Jamar Chase. Joe Burrow's going to look like the next coming. But 17 carries for 170 plus yards screams, get him the ball again. And the thing about Philly, they've been up and down all year. They've had their problems. I think Devontae Smith didn't even have like a catch last week, or maybe he had like one. AJ Brown was the threat. Say it again.
One, I think, for negative yards.
Yeah.
Negative.
So Philly hasn't had that grunting, grinding win. This is the spot for it. And I'm talking 27 I'm talking 40 rushes overall between Hurts and Barkley and whoever the backup is going to be for that game. For like less than 4 yards a carry, but they control the game. I know Jordan's going to be out again. Is he out for the season? Is that what we're thinking?
Or is at least 4 games. I've heard anywhere 4 to 6 because it thankfully didn't tear it, but it's
He
it
looked
is
bad. He looked bad on your video. He looked really bad. I still like them here. And look, they got a lot of confidence out of that win. It was a feel good moment, but they're going to have a tough one against Cincinnati. But they've got enough tough players on the offensive side to make plays. And defensively, all you need is one play. And the Bengals have been given to people all year. So I definitely, definitely love the Eagles there, man. I love them there. And I think they win. But at the very least, they cover.
I, I
They
like I,
cover.
I like that play a lot because I think if anything, I think this is a week if you're playing fantasy. I look at T Higgins. I think that's a
Yeah.
week the way that Vic Fangio has played top receivers beforehand, playing that cover that he does a decent job. And I love the way the secondary is playing that way. And when it comes to the Bengals, their pass rush is not getting home. So I think you can really pick apart their secondary, especially Cam Taylor. I think you can get AJ Brown can have a field day if he's lined up on it. He can real. This was a game I thought was going to be a shootout heading into the season. I still think it will be, but I don't think it's going to be to the point where I'm like, wow, it's like 42-35 anymore. I think it's going to be more like a 31-27 Eagles, something like that, where they win. They score a lot of points, dicey for a little bit, but they salted away with like one of those patented 6-minute drives at the end of the game, and we're looking like, wow, they're 5-2, huh? How
Yeah,
that
exactly.
happened?
And you remember when they went into New Orleans, that's a hostile territory. New Orleans was a rolling football team at that point. And the Eagles controlled the game. The only reason why the score was so close is because they had so many turnovers late. That probably won't happen. That's it for this episode of Unparalleled Sports Talk. If you like the podcast, make sure you share the podcast, subscribe to the podcast, comment on the podcast, whatever your platform allows you to do. He's Chris Franklin. I'm Kwame Fisher Jones. As always, we appreciate your time and year. You be easy.